You've tuned into the Bellingham Podcast for the week of February 18, 2018, episode 68. From the city by the Sailor Sea, I am AJ Barce.
And straight out of 98226, I am Chris Powell. On this episode, a while ago, AJ and I arrived at the intersection of digital and analog. The view here is pretty nice. We're stopping for a while to have a cup of coffee. Won't you join us for a while? This is the Bellingham Podcast.
Greatest part of waking up.
It's Bellingham Podcast in your
cup.
Ears. Yeah, that's it. How's it going, AJ?
Good. A lot better than I have in the last couple of weeks. Chris, how you doing?
I was test driving my announcer voice in that hook, so I don't know. Giving it a try. Otherwise, doing pretty well. Glad that we're over halfway through February, the shortest month of the year, and I'm starting to see the sun peek out every couple minutes, teasing us like of things yet to come. So.
And yet, yesterday it snowed. So
yes,
you
and
know.
More in the forecast later on in a lot of ways.
Wah,
So.
wah, wah, wah.
That's right. That's how life is up here. And what is it, the 49th parallel?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So. What are we talking about today?
So we are, like you mentioned in the hook, we are taking on a look at our analog endeavors, and this is kind of coming out of the last two episodes that we've done, where you and I are quite fed up with digital lately, and we're not renouncing it. It's not like we're burning our iPhones, but in our daily life, it's good to strike a balance and being disconnected a little bit, and being able to be a little bit more tactile. With our things that we have with us, or as to quote Chris, the things that bring you joy.
That's right. And we got I just am tired for having to look at a screen all day, and I'm sure it's having repercussions on my system that I'll find out later on in life. But it's been around for centuries. Let's talk about ways that we don't have to look at a screen and do stuff. So I'm a working schmuck, just like a whole lot of y'all out there listening. And Monday through Friday, I go from my car to the office, and I have stuff that I carry with me. And in previous episodes, I talked about bags and notebooks and pens and all this other stuff. And no, I'm not a shill for a company, but, I give it a try. I'll go first. And, in this season, as we're in late winter, before the Ides of March, or the
the Ides of March.
Yeah, that's something like that. I've been working on slimming down my carry that I take with me, and what can I get away with, and also just what can I jot my thoughts down and process with that doesn't involve having to get thumb cramps tapping into a phone.
So one of the things that you mentioned is we love bags. You, me.
We're aficionados.
We are aficionados of bags, largely because you and I are not the backpack kind of sort, unless we're hitting a trail or something. Yeah. But we're also not the, let me cinch up my tie and whip out my briefcase. That's not our thing. It doesn't work within our workflow and what we do for a living. Chris, what are you doing for a bag these days? Are you still rocking that big canvas bag?
The Carhartt bag?
Carhartt, yeah.
A number of episodes back, I wanted to try a different route and go with a rugged bag to carry my stuff. And, if it's good enough for those that are working outdoors, and I got biggest props, full respect for y'all that are employing the Carhartt brand, whether it's your wardrobe or accessories of what you carry. I found that just having a huge container to store stuff in, stuff gets jumbled about.
Well, you are a minimalist, so it's not like you have a lot of stuff.
Well, those very few things that I carry around in that bag get jumbled about.
Right.
So did some more research as per usual, and I happened to discover... Well, first of all, let me back up. What do I carry with me? I got an iPad Pro 12.9. I got a couple pens, a little notebook, some miscellaneous USB drives, some business cards, and that's not a lot else as far as what I would take with me every day for what I would want to have just in case. Yeah, and my phone too. So did some research online, and there happens to be this not very well-known company out there called Everky. It's Everki, and they have a very stylish website, and they have messenger bags, they have briefcases, they've got the whole gamut. But I locked in on the Everky Venue XL. It's not really XL. It's a vertical type messenger sling bag in a lot of ways. The strap it's tactile for me because it feels like a seatbelt.
Yeah.
And while I have that Chrome Industries messenger bag that was like a turtle shell on the back of me and was made of a seatbelt and the click lock thing, this one has a very burly strap, ergonomically pleasing to me, and it only carries the essentials. When I saw the video, because all gear has these videos on YouTube where they're talking about, look at all the stuff you could throw into our, and I'm like, well, I got that, and I got that, and I'm putting that in there. And I was like, that's pretty much my everyday carry from what I'm watching on this video. And I'm like, okay, so checking out the price. All right, I looked around. It's not that accessible on Amazon or some of the other areas. So I was able to locate a particular store in California that had it and got it. And I've been I've been auditioning it for a couple months now, through at least the December, January season. And I gotta say, it's really nice. It feels like a holster for a gun.
Yeah, it's
on my hip.
And it's in black,
of course.
And I think is it orange piping? Or
there's a little bit of orange piping, and I will allow piping to enter my life. There's a little bit of color in the otherwise bleak view that is my dark wardrobe. But I mean, it's stylish, and what I really have enjoyed are some of the magnets that it has. It doesn't have a snap or a loop or a belt hook feature or anything like that. It's got two internal magnets that has one that when there's not a lot of stuff in there, it goes and locks into one magnet, and if you have a good deal of stuff, it'll go to the upper magnet. So you're not having this flapping around, which is nice. Plus, on the other side, there's a nice little internal compartment to store my phone. They thought of a lot of things as far as how can you carry this, how can you have accessibility to a lot of things, and how can it be protected in all seasons.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan, and been working with a Everki Venue XL. Got a link in the show notes as per always, because we talk. We want you to check these sites out as you're listening to the show. But so that's the bag that I'm working with, and then I made a couple other changes along analog writing things. And I've talked about Baron Fig, still down with Baron Fig, down with the Bullet Journal, down with Leuchtturm, Moleskine. I like them all, right? A paper is good. let's just
paper.
The paper's good, but as I'm carrying something back and forth with me, I want to be able to jot some notes down, get something out of my head, and organize a list of some things of what I need to do. And out of all the notebooks that I have, there are some that I want to have at home in my dedicated space where I'm journaling or logging my day. That's cool. But if I want to just get random thoughts, I'm a fan of Field Notes, based in Chicago, Illinois.
Yep, here in the good US of A.
That's right. And I've always been a fan of their a clever series of little notebooks. They're 3.5 by 5 or so, but there was one series in particular that they kind of leveled up. They put the old air pump into their notebooks and came up with I believe it is a 4 3/4 by 7.5 notebook. So that's about the size of my hand in some cases. And it's pitch black naturally, which appeals to me, but it's the larger of the notebook as opposed to the memo book.
Right.
For field notes. And I decided that, for a 2-pack of these notebooks, 60 some pages, for about $12, I'll play. And it fits nice and slim inside an RFID blocking little zipper thing that I can store a passport or other things in my bag. And I've been carrying that around with me. And if I go to a meeting or something, I'll bring that with me and jot some notes down. It doesn't really have a theme to it. It's a catch-all, which is helpful.
And it's pitch black.
And it's black. That's
so it's
right.
Chris Powell-proof.
That's right. And then for writing, I've talked about Lamy Safaris, and I've talked about Tombow pens, and et cetera, et cetera. I really have found myself, what am I using on a regular basis? Stadler.
Stadler.
We got a link in the show notes.
Yeah.
But basically, they have a pigment liner 308 pen. For those of you playing at home, it's the gray pen that is 0.3 millimeters wide. It does not bleed, and I'm a left-handed writer, so therefore, as I'm writing, my hand does not smear. It works well with some of the paper in these notebooks where it doesn't bleed through.
Right.
And it's really, bold. You got to keep it capped because if it's exposed to air, it might get a little dry, and that is a sign of taking care of your equipment. So I've been rolling with Staedtler Pigment Liner 308 pens in this everyday carry. So
how much? So with your bag, your pad of paper, and your pen, how much is your everyday carry? How much is the Verky and stuff?
The Verky will probably get you around 100 to 120.
Okay,
it's an investment, and the Pitch Black is a 2-pack for 12, and the Staedtler Pigment is right around 350 or 4. So I'm rocking less than $150 in my everyday carry. Now, I also store my Apple EarPods in there, and I also store my iPhone. So if you want to put a price tag on those.
No, I'm just saying, out of the list that you mentioned.
Yes. I would say it's about $150 to go analog with what I'm carrying. And, you get yourself a bunch of business cards to throw in there. Well, you can get them for free. Or if you actually care about the card you're giving to people, drop $40 on Zazzle.com. It's a great one. Or Moo.com. Great websites to be able to get some business cards. And if, we'll talk about Hoban Press in the future because they are OMG amazing, but we'll talk about that in another episode. So yeah, less than 150 to get your analog life rolling.
Dig it. Well, speaking of analog, you might be listening to us on KMRE 102.3 FM.
Low power.
Community radio here in the heart of the city of analog subdued excitement.
I like it. So AJ, for the past couple episodes, you have been checking out technology dependency in some ways. Technological dependency, I guess, would be a way of talking about it. How are you working towards a simple life?
So one of the things that in all of our rants, whether it's on the mic or off the mic, one of the things that I keep coming back to is I feel like Yogi Bear, I want to have the bare necessities. No, that wasn't Yogi. Who was that? That was Baloo from the Jungle Book.
Okay.
I got the bare necessities.
That's right.
That's kind of how I've been feeling. And recently it hit me with my photography. One of the things I talk about on my Patreon is this thing that in the photography community and in most communities, musicians, anything that deals with gear, you get hit with gear lust.
Oh, yeah.
And you just start swooning over the latest whatever, or this piece of old whatever, or man, I really wish I had this whatever because it would make me better, stronger, faster, whatever. And recently I've been doing that largely because it's a new year and I'm thinking about what acquisitions I want for my business to get. And I was looking at several different pieces of kit, and something kind of fell in my lap. There was a silent auction here locally, and I was the winning bid of an old Fuji ST605N film body. Just 35 millimeter film. The light meter in it was toast. But it's full mechanical. You don't need, there is no batteries required to take a picture. For
those of us that aren't aware of the specs on this camera, about what decade would this be?
70, from the best I could date it, I think it was 76, 77, 78.
Okay.
Fuji made it for a while. But it looks like a vintage not vintage DSLR, but a vintage SLR, single lens reflex camera. And when I got it, I had it with the intent of it needed some work. So I'm kind of handy. So I replaced the light seals and I cleaned it out and rehabbed the mirror and there's a focusing plane in it and stuff. And it was just a fun project. And out of it, I was going to rack some film. Well, a friend and colleague, matter of fact, I'll put a link to his Instagram and his photography in the show notes. He hooked me up because my birthday was around the corner, and he gifted me, because he saw that I was getting bit by the film bug. He gifted me something that I would qualify as a holy grail camera for me, which is the Olympus OM1. Now, if you don't know what this OM1 is, I put a link to the Wikipedia article on it. And when you see this thing, it looks stylish, first off. You look at this piece of equipment, and as a photographer, you're like, oh man, this looks skookum. Then you put it in your hands, and you feel the weight of it. You feel everything is metal.
I'm a fan of metal.
It did come in all black.
Of course it does.
I have the silver and black model, which I prefer. But it dawned on me that I had this camera, and just like the Fuji, and I'm like, I haven't racked some film in a while. So I loaded the OM1 with a roll of Kodak 200 film, and 200 is representative of the speed. And I located a lens off of the eBay in clean condition. And I actually processed my first roll of color film this last week, and my Patreon will have some stuff. I already put some stuff on my Instagram. But what's been interesting about this OM1, it's 1972, it's actually earlier than the Fuji that I picked up, is it's been nice to slow down, and it's been nice to actually practice the art of photography again. Because in doing this, I realized photographers, we've gotten lazy. Mm-hmm. And I'll be the first one to point the finger at myself, because I've forgot, like there's old style rules, like the Sunny 16 rule or the Overcast 8 rule. All of these things that we as photographers used to know off the top of our heads. But now we are heavily reliant on batteries and the computer inside these cameras. And especially for me, as a mirrorless shooter, I can see my exposure before I take a photo. And I typically, my style, I typically visualize a photo before I take it naturally. But when you're dealing with film, you have no choice. You don't get to look back and go, oh man, did my subject blink? And it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to slow down and think. And also, for a while there, because I had to locate a battery for this camera. This camera's meter does still work, but again, not required. I can take full frame photos. You'll hear that in the photography community a lot. Full frame being full 35 millimeter photos. And you can pick up one of these clean on eBay for $50 with a lens. If you were to do the same thing in a Sony body, you're looking at 1,500 bones. Full frame for full frame. Now you're right. It's one's digital, one's not. But here's the thing: at the end of the day, as long as I have film, I don't even have to have a battery. I can take a photo, and I can do it in black and white and color too. Like I can be stylistic. # no filter. Film is the original no filter. And it's just been refreshing. So I processed my first roll of film. I took some pictures, not for client work, just for me. Because that's the thing that I noticed recently in my photography is I focus so much on my client work or my contract work or just work. And I missed having a camera on me to do stuff that I want to do. And so this has been my project with it. I have a shout out locally, Quicksilver, who is our local film and camera shop here in Bellingham. Just up the street from another place we're going to talk about in a second. But Quicksilver, if you're listening, you guys are the goods. As a matter of fact, Chris, I took you to Quicksilver, and I think you mentioned they have one of the coolest soundtracks in Bellingham.
Yeah, this could be a 15-minute rant, but I'll save y'all from enduring that. No, when we're in Quicksilver now, I'm not a photography aficionado. I'm just kind of playing security because we're going to go to lunch afterwards. But I come in there and I'm hearing classic blues guitar. And I'm like, I love this place already. And how nice that they have a place where, one, probably the proprietor picked the music himself.
Sure.
And is not playing on, you're listening to the in-house radio network for this, but it sets a mood of relaxation, of fun. When was the last time you went to a store and felt relaxed with a oonce techno soundtrack, or some of these pop hits that are playing in there,
or Muzak
or something like that? If you got some music, does so much for establishing the mood. And I'm going to talk about the music experience later on when I talk about what's across the street from Quicksilver. But anyway, don't want to steal the thunder. Quicksilver is a great location, and for those of you that are wanting to check out the analog life of photography, or to check something out, or actually get a camera on the cheap and have fun when the weather gets nice out there, here's your place to go to get it developed.
Yeah, and they're local. What's also great about it is, Chris is 100% right. Like if you wanted to try out analog, or heck, even if you have digital, they also have, you can buy used or new gear from them. Their used cabinet is awesome. Matter of fact, a colleague of ours, when I was down picking up some film, he ended up buying another film body. It was $100, and it was literally brand new. I'd never been used before. So, I mean, there's some great deals there. The staff's knowledgeable. But here's the reason why I also went down this route of taking photos and kind of rediscovering my alchemy of light and time. Is with film photography, the one thing I kept hearing, especially growing up, is, oh, film is really expensive. Oh man. And with digital nowadays, you hear this, oh man, you can't even get your film developed anymore. Yes, you can. So, little known fact, if you see Rite Aid and Walgreens, if they have a photo on it, that's not just a place to print your photos. You can actually still drop off 35 millimeter film and have it processed. It'll range in your area. It's usually around $10 to $15 a roll. And they will give you a DVD or CD of the actual scans of it too, which is really nice. For me, I like having negatives. I don't need prints or contact sheets or anything because I can do all of that myself. But here's what's nice. If you shoot color film, and by the way, you can find film. You're probably thinking, well, where can I find film other than Quicksilver? Did you know that Hagen's over in Berkeley Village, Chris, you can buy Fuji film 4-pack for $20?
That's not bad. It's not the place you would think about getting analog camera film.
Yeah, it's right there next to their batteries and stuff. But you can still find film. And yeah, okay, so you can pick up 4 rolls, $20. Okay, cool. Now you get it processed. Quicksilver, you can get a roll of film. Now they process only once a week, so you have a little bit of downtime to see what your prints look like.
To build anticipation for the product.
Exactly. $4.50 to process your color roll.
So let's break this down.
I knew you would.
So you got the silent auction for the camera.
Yeah, we'll say $50 for a film camera.
$50 for the device.
Yeah.
$5 for a roll of film.
Yeah.
$4. What was it?
$4 for a color roll of film.
So you're in for
process.
about $60. Do you need a lens or something like
that?
Yeah,
you can pick up, depending on what kind of camera you pick up at auction, if it's a fixed lens or an interchangeable lens like the OM1. Lenses range based off of focal length, and you can spend totally gonzo money on lenses, but you can kit yourself up for $100 for an analog camera, a good analog camera that you can experiment and work on the art of photography again.
Should you be among the lucky to get a tax return this season, what a wonderful experience this could be to outfit yourself with an analog camera and go out to the Tulip Festival in Skagit County, or go out to Farmers Market and just start snapping some pictures and have a fun project with a loved one or with a youngster or something else like that to try that process. Remember how our parents used to take pictures of us all the time and such?
Well, and that's the other thing is, as a dad, like that's something that really dawned on me is a lot of other families that I do play dates with. So often it's like, oh, let me show you this photo. Everybody whips out their phone. When's the last time, short of wedding pictures or a major anniversary pictures, do you actually have people actually have pictures on hand? And so that really jarred me as a photographer. I'm like, I want to actually capture moments on a chunk of celluloid that is agnostic of ones and zeros. I don't have to worry about things that are going to go out of date or is my software going to process it. It's film. I want that type of backup. And so anyway, I'll get off my soapbox a little bit, but check out Quicksilver. If you're doing black and white film, they process black and white film in-house. It's about $8 a roll as well.
Very cool. And across the street from Quicksilver, there is a fine dining establishment in Bellingham that some of you may not be aware of.
I wasn't.
What used to be Wasabi Sushi went under new management some time ago, but I think it bears making mention. There's a place called Muto, M-U-T-O, ramen and Ichibaya's house. So basically you get a lot of Asian Japanese cuisine and in a really cool location downtown, just a hop, skip, and a jump away from the farmers market downtown on Railroad. But they specialize in ramen bowls of food. Now, college students out there, we all know about Top Ramen and how that can be a very inexpensive meal, but it's kind of like, having a Big Mac when you have the ability to have steak.
Or I was going to say, actually grill your own, but yeah.
So now, AJ, you weren't aware of this place that I dragged you to. However, you've been to Japan.
Yeah.
And you've had bowls of ramen.
Authentic ramen,
in the motherland.
Yeah, and so that was really interesting is I mean, anybody who's gone through college, you kind of get disgusted by Top Ramen. And it's interesting knowing that now the history of why instant ramen was created, which is very cool. But being over there and visiting my buddy, one of the things he introduced me to was actual ramen. And so we actually went to the ramen museum, where you actually walk through vintage, like 1950s, 60s streets of Japan, and you go to all these different storefronts and you try different regional delicacies of ramen. And it was mind-blowing. And now, yes, a lot of people are probably thinking, well, it's soup. There is a lot more to it than just the noodles and the water. The broth, the stock, all of that is region-specific to each bowl of ramen. And there's a purpose and a reason behind it because of where they are on the island. But you can't really find that. It's hard to find it here in the States. Once you've had it and you come back here, you're very limited. Muto is actually pretty good. It is an American take on it, but it's the closest thing that I've had since I've been in Tokyo.
So as far as your experience in Japan for that ramen experience, which was your favorite back then?
All of them. I don't have one specific one offhand. Anything with seafood in it, I'm always game. But
you're an equal opportunity slurper.
Absolutely, I slurp loud and proud because it tastes delicious.
Very cool. So in addition to that, they have sushi. They have rice bowls. Name your healthy food of choice. They probably got it there at Muto. So give it a try sometime. Downtown Bellingham. This is in the left atrium of the heart of downtown Bellingham.
It's across from what is that bike shop? Colson Bikes? Is that? There's a bike shop on the corner, and then you got Muto.
And one of the best parts about that restaurant that I noticed, and here comes that theme again.
Here it is.
As we're sitting in the restaurant, and you hear the ambient chatter of. Not exactly.
I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm just kidding.
You hear the ambient chatter of the other people in the restaurant having their conversations. All of a sudden, as we're having our food, I'm hearing this wonderfully sparse, jazzy piano, light piano, wafting through their speakers at a volume that does not make me take notice. Brian Eno often referred to ambient music as music that is not to be heard, but not to be made aware of. I butchered that quote, but still, I'm hearing this music and I'm like, that is beautiful. It adds to the vibe, the classy experience that is this restaurant.
Very classy.
And once again, there could be other restaurants that you go to that don't have that kind of classy atmosphere as evidenced by the music you're listening to. Take note next time you go to a restaurant or go to a store, what are you listening to? And how does it affect your mood? That is your challenge of the week, listeners. You hear it here first. But anyway, Muto Ramen House on Chestnut Street, I believe, going up the hill. Give it a try sometime. I think you might like it. And speaking of how a song can trigger an emotion or a vibe with you, in my Quiet Conversations newsletter this week, I pretty much told a story about a song and how a long-lost experience of enjoying this song was refound again in this modern age. And it's amazing how music can evoke an emotion or evoke memories. I wrote about it.
It was a cool story. It was a really cool story.
Thank you very much. So in the show notes, if you want to check things out, check out the bit.ly Quiet Chris link in there. Probably sign up for the newsletter if you wish. It's fun time. But I'm really like paying attention to the impact that music has in our life. So in addition to music, there's also plenty of other things on 102.3 FM, KMRE.
Low power.
Community radio in the city of subdued excitement. That is Bellingham, Washington. I think we should stick a fork in this episode, AJ.
Yeah, so that wraps up for this 68th edition of the Bellingham Podcast. Thank you.
68?
68.
We've been at this for 68 episodes?
Can you imagine? Actually, 68 episodes at 30 minutes a pop.
At 30 minutes a pop, maybe longer in the earlier days.
Yeah, the earlier
Wow,
days.
That's a lot of talking. I need a drink.
On that note, thank you again so much for listening to us, rating us, reviewing us on wherever you love to get your podcast, whether it's iTunes or Google or Chris's favorite,
TuneIn Radio.
TuneIn Radio. Thank you again so much. I'm AJ Barce.
And I'm Chris Powell. Thanks once again for listening to us on the Bellingham Podcast. That was my announcer voice again. Did you like that?
That was good.
All right, I'm still working on it, though.